We're going to start off today's program with some real hands-on stuff. Ed Sherwood is a UFO contactee who during the last 19 years has witnessed over 60 UFO events in daytime and at night. He's encountered extraterrestrial being on 4 separate occasions, experiencing close encounters of the first, second, third and fourth kind. He has assisted many researchers in a psychic capacity to help them achieve a peaceful contact with non-human intelligences. Ed points out that a close encounter experience changes you by opening your mind and stimulating your curiosity to perceive other realities. In 1994, Ed held a series of guided group meditations, mentally inviting any benevolent ETs to join in and participate with them. Ed is convinced that one of the major reasons why there is an ET presence in our world is because of what we are doing to it. He says the choice is ours. We have a responsibility towards this planet, which extends much further than we might think. Ladies and gentlemen, a big warm welcome, please, for Mr. Ed Sherwood.
Thank you, Tom. It's nice to see so many faces, and thank you very much for coming. What I propose to do today, this morning, is to talk for about 40 minutes and then open the meeting to questions. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask about anything I've said or haven't said, please do. I very much thrive on questions. Or if you'd simply like to relate an experience of your own, I'm sure many of you have had experiences not so different from mine. I'd love to hear that. Right. I'm often asked, how did I first become involved in this subject, i.e. UFOs and ET contact? Well, my first involvement began at the age of 9. Now, before that time, I'd had a lot of parapsychological experiences, typically poltergeist phenomena. I regularly came out of my body, would often see light phenomena that people around me would sometimes see, particularly my family. A lot of clairvoyance, telepathy, and occasionally precognition. So I was in a way already open to other possibilities. But one night, I awoke in the middle of the night and felt a very strong compulsion to get out of bed. I was standing next to my bunk bed, my brother sleeping below. Something I wouldn't do at the age of 9, because like most children of my age, I had become afraid of the dark. I wasn't afraid initially, but my parents' reaction to what was happening around me was fear, and I think I very much learned my fear from them. So I wouldn't get out of bed in the middle of the night, but on this occasion, there was this overriding compulsion. So I followed that, and I stood by the bed as if waiting for something. I didn't know what. But moments later, a bright light appeared in the corner of the room, which expanded and took on a humanoid shape. Now, as soon as I saw this, I was frozen to the spot with fear, and I can still remember to this day the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. And I couldn't take my eyes off this being, particularly off its face, which looked very similar to this character here in the Book of Transformation by Whitley Strieber. The face wasn't quite so angular as this, but it had very large almond-shaped eyes that were bright blue. I wanted to shout and couldn't. I wanted to run and couldn't. My brother was completely oblivious to this. I then heard a voice in my mind that said, "Don't be afraid, I'm not going to hurt you." And as soon as I heard those words, I remember all of my fear just leaving me and feeling a warmth, a feeling that I was in no threat, no danger. And then I heard the words, "Do you remember?" And as soon as I heard those words, I had a whole flood of mental images relating to my life, just my life. Quite a lot of those at the age of 9 were actually of future events that have come true. And others which I couldn't understand at the time are proving to be possible past life material. Because I've talked to quite a lot of psychics here and abroad who keep coming up with a number of names and places, and I've had other experiences to confirm this as well. But the information in those images relating only to my life. I then have what's classically known as missing time. Although I was completely awake, very much awake, not sleeping, not dreaming, not hallucinating, this wasn't wishful thinking. I don't recall at all how this event finished. I don't remember the being disappearing or getting back into bed. I just woke up next morning with this knowledge of what had happened that night. Now, at the time, I was living in a town in Norfolk, which in those years was the county that had the highest number of UFO sightings in this country. And that might be due to the fact that Norfolk is the place of the main military, US military bases, which at the time also had our nuclear missiles. And there's a very strong connection if you look into the material, particularly in books like Above Top Secret by Timothy Good, a very strong correlation between the appearance of UFOs or ET intelligence and our developing nuclear technology, particularly using it for military purposes, and nuclear sites. Now, soon after this event, within months, I moved from the towns and countryside, staying in Norfolk, and I had a whole series of UFO encounters in broad daylight and night time, involving one or more objects at a time, alone and with other witnesses. And at first, I treated this as purely a personal experience. I didn't tell anyone. But it's very hard to keep something like this to yourself. You soon after want to tell people. And this I tried, but immediately experienced this tremendous environment of non-acceptance to this subject, which of course is changing, but it's still very much there. So I experienced a lot of ridicule, and this initially shut me down. I felt like I couldn't trust people. There was no support for what I was experiencing. Although my family later on also experienced things, they were either frightened by it or kind of indifferent.